好，各位媒体朋友，谢谢大家参加这一次驻台北以色列经济文化办事处针对以色列与伊朗这一次的军事冲突的记者会。那为了节省时间呢，我们今天的就流程非常的简单，就是一开始是由代表会针对这一次的情势呢跟大家分享与报告，然后接下来我们就会开放那个媒体提问。那我们首先呢，先欢迎就是驻台北以色列经济文化办事处代表尤玛雅代表来先为大家说一下。
Okay, good morning, and thank you for coming here. I see many familiar faces. This is unprecedented times for Israel, really historical days. During the last 11 days, Israeli air forces has been attacking in Iran non-stop. And at the same time, in Israel, Iranian missiles have been attacking cities and civilians non-stop. This is a scale of destruction that we have not seen ever before, and Israel is in a state of emergency. Israel is a country that was threatened from day one of its existence 77 years ago. Yet now we are facing direct and deliberate attacks on our civilians. My parents, my friends are in shelters. There are no schools, only essential working places are active, and Israeli people are paying a very heavy price. These are historical days not only for Israel and not only for the Middle East, but to the entire international community. Geostrategic changes are happening in scale and in pace like never before, and especially what we have witnessed last night with President Trump's bold decision, decisive decision, to military attack 3 nuclear facilities in Iran demonstrates once again that the US is the leader of the free world acting against totalitarian regimes. The main message from that historical act and from what we are hearing from many countries since the open of the Rising Lion military campaign is very clear. Under no circumstances can Iran possess nuclear weapon. This is a very strong message, and I will repeat that again. This is our time to take a global stance on it. Also, this is day number 626 for Swords of Iron war against Hamas, which started with a brutal massacre of more than 1,200 Israelis on October 7, 2023. We still fight, and we still have, unfortunately, 50 hostages starved and tortured in the tunnels of Hamas in Gaza, and we will not stop until they're all back. There is one thing that we learned in a harsh way from that October 7 attack, and that is when our enemies call to annihilate Israel, we listen to them and we believe them. And this is exactly what is happening today with Iran. The supreme leader of Iran, Khamenei, has been continuously calling for the destruction and annihilation of the state of Israel. Iranian radical Islamist regime had a very clear plan to annihilate the state of Israel, and it included 3 pillars: the nuclear program, the ballistic weapon program, and the terrorist proxies, and I will go over that. I will not go into the long history of negotiations with Iran about the nuclear program, but I will mention that on June 12th, the day before Rising Lion started, there was a decision made by the International Atomic Energy Agency stating that Iran is in non-compliance to its NPT safeguards. It means that Iran is the only country in the world that is having highly enriched uranium for 60%. There is no justification for having that level of highly enriched uranium for peaceful purposes. Now, the amounts of that highly enriched uranium are sufficient for 9 atom bombs. And what is most alarming is that a third of that amount was reached and accelerated only during the last 3 months, which means that there was a very quick running of acceleration of enrichment. Now, what happened during the last 3 months? There were negotiations between the US and Iran, which means that in parallel to those negotiations, Iran was actually accelerating its nuclear enrichment and weaponization plans. The second part is the ballistic missile program. Iran is already having thousands of missiles, and we know because we feel them now every day. But on top of that, they had a plan to accelerate to have 10,000 missiles within 3 years until 2027. It means that they were going into massive build-up, into really drastic increase of production. Now, what we're seeing today in Israel are missiles with 200 and 500 tons of explosive. This is like, imagine bus full of explosive flying into a city center. This is what we're experiencing right now. And this is an existential threat for Israel. We are such a small country, much smaller than Taiwan. To have that type of threat with 10,000 missiles being built against us is something that no country in the world can have. The third pillar of the plan of annihilation by Iran was the terrorist proxies, and you all know their names by now: Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah. They have been financing, training, guiding them, providing weapons. We know that the mastermind before October 7 was really Iran, and the executor was actually Hamas. Now, what Iran planned for 2027 was to activate a ring of fire around Israel, having the same model that we saw on October 7, which means ground invasion for multiple fronts in addition to missile attack. Again, this is something that is existential threat to us. So what we have seen during the last few months is something that we have not seen in the last 2 decades. And that is a very fast running forward in both nuclear and ballistic missiles. So the decision, knowing all of that, was very clear. And we had no other choice. For us, defending our country is something that we must do, and we needed to act on time before it's too late, before they have a nuclear atomic bomb. For us, this is an act of self-defense, and we must do it to secure our future. Now, the aim of Rising Lion is very clearly stated. We are to neutralize the nuclear and the ballistic missile program. We need to roll back the threat so we will no longer have an existential immediate threat. And I want to get you a little bit behind our line of thoughts when we're going into the military choosing of the targets. And of that, and I can share with you later, I know it's a bit small, but perhaps you can see. This is the various stages of a nuclear process. It is not easy or simple to assess a nuclear warhead. It requires a lot of research, R&D. It requires enrichment, material, mining, weaponization, minimizing everything, storage. All of that process is a very complicated one. And what we are now doing is we are going against processes, facilities that are in all of those stages. It means military facilities. It means critical components of nuclear process. key individuals, both in the military leaders and scientific leaders, and all the infrastructure that is associated with Iran's ballistic missiles program. We are performing a very focused and strong targeted attacks, and we're doing our utmost to not harm civilians. We give announcements before, if possible. What Israel did and is continuing to do as we speak here today is very significant to delay the possibility of Iran having a nuclear bomb. But the US involvement was critically needed. And we thank President Trump for leading US military action last night and removing an immediate existential threat and making the entire world safer from nuclear weapon. The attack on Fordo was something that was needed from the US, and President Trump made a very historical decision to prevent the world's most dangerous regime from obtaining the world's most dangerous weapon. This will never be forgotten. I'm not going to repeat on messages that we all heard directly from President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu in their statements, but I will say that it is very obvious that the communication and coordination between the US and Israel was very close. Both share the same vision of peace through strength, and they both bring us to a pivotal moment that we're now standing at. I want to make it clear that we are not done yet. There are still military targets, and we are not going to stop until we're going to achieve the fully military aims that we have set for ourselves for this military campaign. Israel is committed to achieve its endgame, and it's going to require more time, as much time as necessary to accomplish the quality of those targets. And we're all hearing the concerns of many people about escalation. So I would like to refer to that and say, we are really on a crossroad. And this is an opportunity for a safer and more stable Middle East. Perhaps this is the one time where we can actually make this region positively contribute to global security. Preventing a tyranny, an extremist Iranian regime, from continuing to destabilize and take an action, terrorist action, against the region and against the world is something that we are all in the free world should really support and stand by. And we hear that. We hear that from President Trump, from G7 leaders, European leaders, like-minded countries. They all make it very clear in their statements. Under no circumstances will Iran be allowed to possess nuclear weapons. This is a shared responsibility. We all need to make sure that Iran is enforced to change its behavior and make this a new reality. I would like to mention two more issues, and then I will open for Q&A. The first is about the people back home in Israel. And there are 10 million people living in my country, a very small country. We're facing deliberate Iranian attacks on our civilians. They're attacking a hospital, they attack a mosque, they attack Jewish, Christian, and Muslim communities, Israeli people, foreign people, regardless. This is a deliberate attack. We already have 24 casualties, people who paid with their lives. Thousands are injured. Thousands lost their homes. We need, and we know in Israel, we understand that in order to achieve victory, we need a strong and resilient home front. And we have been preparing this for years. People in Israel know exactly what to do when the sirens are heard and the alarms are off, and they know to go to shelters and safe rooms which are available in every apartment and in every building. Yes, we do have advanced technologies, And you see them. They give us multi-layered air defense, Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow. We have the US systems. These are giving a lot of protection and they have high interception rates, but they are not 100% proof. And we still do not have complete protection. So we do have a small number of missiles that have been managed to penetrate and to hit civilians. And this is where we're seeing the spirit of the Israelis. The resilience, the community, the solidarity. Israeli people do not want to be at war. If there is any doubt about it, I want to make it really clear. We are such a minority Jewish country. There are only 15 million Jews all around the world, 7.5 million Jews in Israel. And all we want to do is to live in peace and security so my children and all of our future generation will be able to have a prosperous and quiet life. This is something that I think we and Taiwanese people are sharing together. What we do is defend ourselves. My last point for today is really about the cognitive war that we're seeing all around us, and I think that there is a very high awareness for that specifically in Taiwan. I'm saying this because I see my country getting a lot of criticism and the international media for being too aggressive. And I saw that also here in Taiwan. This is coming, I think, from those who don't fully understand the Middle East power dynamics and culture and history. And I want to specifically say about this case of Iran, what is the alternative? We are dealing with a regime that is radical Islamism. It's a dictatorship. This is the most repressive government in the world. Everything that you know about Taiwan's way of life, about Taiwan's vibrant democracy, is not existing in Iran. No women's rights, no LGBTQI, no freedom of press, no freedom of speech. There is no democracy, there is only oppression. This is a terrorist regime that is acting against its own people. If we who belong to the free world, and we are in this community together, we must remain aware and we must be united in front of any tactics that try to distort us from this truth. There is no other alternative. We cannot have this regime have nuclear weapons. And I see these efforts to divert and manipulate our intentions in AI-generated images and videos that show my country being defeated and being aggressive. And I want to really ask you, please be cautious when you notice those. Please follow us and know that our office is here and open. We have social media, we're sharing, and we're very much available to provide the correct information. And we have a line of experts that are willing to talk and give some more information. So please, let's cooperate on that together. Thank you. I can take a quick Q&A if you would like.
现在开放那个媒体提问 ，OK， 婷婷。
Hi, good morning, Rep. This is Qing Liu from TVBS. So I have a couple of questions for you. Do you mind if I just ask all in one go, or should we go one by one? Okay, thank you so much. So for the first question I have for you is that I'm just curious how many Israeli citizens are currently in Taiwan, and because we have currently seen that on social media there are actually some Israelis who wish to return home actually. So just wondering whether there's any current plans about this, assisting them to get home. And the second part is that because the recent U.S. attack on Iran, are there concerns that Israeli diplomatic posts, like the one around the world, will become key targets for Iranian retaliation? So for the Taiwan side, just wondering, because you actually openly hold a press conference today, so are you concerned about that kind of level of threat currently, what you guys are actually managing on a security level, or what is your, I would say, your thoughts about that? And the last part is that, just wondering, because this press conference come at a time when there are like this various increase of tension in the Middle East. So I was just wondering, how has the headquarters at the Israeli Foreign Ministry has given, is there a guidance for having this kind of press conference today? Because we know that many of these embassies around the world, Israeli embassies around the world, are actually closed. But you actually opened a press conference today, so I'm just wondering, was there a guidance or a note from the HQ about, what kind of message this press conference wants to show to the world? Thank you.
Thanks. There are currently about 100,000 Israelis abroad who are requesting to return back to Israel. This has been the case for the last 10 days since our airspace has been closed, and we are seeing a decrease in the amount of flights. I will say on that land borders and maritime borders are still open and people are coming and leaving through them. And we're slowly returning into having more flights to come back to Israel with Israeli airlines. To the best of my knowledge, there are not Israelis here in Taiwan that have requested to return to Israel. But we will definitely support with evacuation plans, again, with Israeli airlines. This is something that we're taking very, very seriously. I can also share on that there were few Taiwanese nationals in Israel who requested to depart Israel. And of course, that the Taiwanese office in Tel Aviv was leading the effort, but with the support and assistance of the Israeli government to make sure everybody who wants that can leave. And to the best of my knowledge, they left through Jordan, so through a land border. As of the retaliation from an Iranian, yes, we are in very sensitive days. These are very tense days, and we're much aware of that. From what I've been actually also seeing today with the global announcement of the US, they're also in a very high alert to see of any retaliation. As you're noticing around you, we are having extra security to make sure we're all safe here and also all around the world. Yes, our offices and embassies all around the world, most of them are not operating physically. But as we all learned from COVID, we can all work from afar. We have been working and will continue to work from home, from meetings, from whatever is necessary to make sure that, number one, we're safe, and that, number two, we continue to bring our message out to make sure that people understand and know what is actually happening. So no clear instruction, but our ambassadors and all of my colleagues all around the world are going out and giving interviews and talking to whoever is interested to really share our message.
Wenyi Lee with the Reuters. So I have a question on, are there any lessons in social resilience Taiwan can learn from Israel, especially on how to protect its civilian population from missile attacks? And do you see is Taiwan as well prepared as Israel to protect its civilian population from air attack? The second one is, do you see whether Taiwan is as well prepared as Israel to protect its civilian population from air attack?
Okay, thank you. I think, first of all, it is really too early to have many lessons. We're really still in active warfare, and there is what we call the fog of war, that we still don't know everything all the way. But really the lessons about how to defend your people and how to make sure that civilians are protected is something we have been doing for many years with shelters and safe rooms inside of apartments. I will maybe try to equivalent that to the earthquake awareness and preparation that there is here in Taiwan. People have alerts. We receive the alerts on our phones. People know exactly what they're supposed to do when there is an earthquake, and they act accordingly. This is done from schools, from children. They are being educated to that. And you have very good standard for building to make sure that they will not collapse and that they will stand. So the same standard has been in Israel for more than 30 years now about safe rooms. Since unfortunately this is not the first time that we're seeing missiles attacks, I can share personally, I was in 1991 during the first Gulf War when we had missile attacks coming from Iraq towards Israel, and we were all in safe rooms. Back then, it was updated into the criteria of buildings. I think that we always have what to learn, and we always have how to improve and how to bring awareness for the people to make sure that they are, after 11 days, they continue to keep the same standards and they go to the shelter, although it's happening 3 times at night and they're not sleeping and they're tired of that. Perhaps one more thing that we can see lessons is how Israel is being assisting to foreign nationals in Israel during emergency. This is something very important for many countries. We see that. Each country is really caring and worried about their own nationals. And we are taking that very closely into heart and facilitating as much as possible, including information and physical assistance. Perhaps this is something that we can also share. As for Taiwan, I see that there is a lot of awareness, willingness, and actual work. During my last 2 years here, I've been noticing many drills that have been going on, and I think that there is a concentrated effort to improve on preparation. Yeah.
Really quick follow-up on, because I know Israel also has your semiconductor industry and high-tech industry, and as well as Taiwan. So if there's any lessons or advice, like to protect and make sure the industries are running well during such conflicts.
Okay. Well, the first thing I will say is that our economy for now, for the short immediate term, it is paying a price. Okay, this is not days as usual. As I was saying, schools are not open. We have home front command that gives us instruction. It means that non-essential workplace are not open. And if I will, for example, refer to my headquarters, only part of the people will physically come and the majority will work far from home. But our economy started this war from a very resilient and very strong financial basis. Our national debt is low, relatively low, only 68%. We have a very strong and resilient policy and market. And we see from previous events, previous wars and military rounds, that it takes us quite short time to rebalance and actually to have a boom economy after that. So the innovation and technologies that we are now seeing being active on the military necessity will later on will have the civilian interpretation for them. And this is exactly why we see the large amount of investments in Israel now during the war. The first quarter of this year, 2025, was the highest in foreign investments that we had. This is a show of really strong support and belief in the Israeli system. Maybe this is to say, come and invest in Israel. But I also want to say, I was talking about this pivotal historical moment we're standing at, of really all opportunities in the Middle East can change. And when we're looking on that, we're actually looking also on trade relations with our newly neighbors. Because we're really hoping for trade relations not only with Asia, with Taiwan, with Europe, with the United States, but also in our region. Trade, communication, tourism, innovation, if we will have that in the Middle East, then peace and stability will bring prosperity also. And this is really in our reach. So I think that that optimism is something that even if there are short-term prices, for the medium term, long term, they're all worth it.
好，那我们还有
Good morning, Representative Maya. First of all, I hope your family back home safe and sound. Okay, my question is, first you mentioned about cognitive war. And there's a lot of fake footage right now is happening on internet, and mostly the fake news is about Iran defeating Israel. And we got the information that a lot of the sources are from China. Since this is a war, so how do the Israel government defend on this war? And the second question is, of course, what happened in Middle East have impact on economy. So right now there's turmoil on also stock market and also oil prices. Any suggestion on Taiwan for the Taiwanese investor? That's my question. Thank you.
Wow. I'll share that in one of the mornings this week when I opened my Instagram, there was a real video showing fire all over the city in Israel. And it got me so scared. And it looked so real. And I actually called my parents. And they came out of the shelter and they were taking their own, mobile phone and just putting like this and showing me everything is okay. There is nothing like that fire happening in reality. And I think that was the moment when it dropped me, how severe this cognitive war is becoming with AI-generated images and videos. We do not know what is true and what is not. And it is very difficult to observe that. Yes, you are correct that there are new narratives that are coming from certain countries. We are following that. We can take care of that in Israel. I think this is the responsibility of each country to make sure how people are educated and they know to differentiate. And I think that it was Fact Check here in Taiwan that was doing a good job on that day to really target some of those images. Perhaps it's an opportunity to say some more things about China, because their posture in the Middle East is something that we are seeing, of course. I think that they keep relations with many players in the region. They have economic and trade interests. Of course, that stability is the most important for them. And we, of course, notice that they have very close relations with Iran. They have comprehensive and strategic partnership, which means that they import oil from Iran in very cheap prices. And therefore, we are evaluating that they have an influence on Iran, which is very valuable at these times. So although we are not seeing eye to eye on everything, we really think that it is extremely important to keep on talking. Only last week, we had a phone call between my foreign minister and Wang Yi, China's foreign minister. And these open lines of communication is something that we will continue to have. About the oil prices, I'm not an expert. I can share with you that the stock market in Israel is skyrocketing. It is very high and doing very good. So perhaps investors in Israel know something that I do not know. I'm not an expert on that. We are seeing the prices of the oil, of course. So far, the last I checked, it was $77. So a moderate increase. We're definitely following and hearing that. And I think this is something that needs to be really united by most countries to make sure that there is not an intended deliberate harm by Iran to the global economy. I think this is something that will damage all of us, and we need to make sure that it's not going to happen.
Sorry, just a follow-up question on China, because you mentioned earlier. Just wondering, because the Chinese MFA just condemned the U.S. strikes on Iran, calling for ceasefire and talks. And actually, the Chinese, just to quote them, they actually said that the U.S. attack on Iran damages U.S. international diplomatic credibility. Just wondering what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I will let my American colleagues also comment on that later, if they would like. I will say that from our side, and I think that this is something that is really shared, but everyone who do not want to see extremist totalitarian regimes in our world. We need to be united on this. And I think this is what we have seen President Trump really leading this and making sure that we will weaken Iran and we will make sure that they will not possess nuclear weapons.
那还有没有媒体朋友有问题的？
Hi, just to follow up on, so Israel has a formidable, really powerful and time-and-so capability with its Iron Dome, and then and other systems. So just wondering, have Taiwanese officials asked you about this system and this technology, and is this something that, some kind of technology that Israel could share with Taiwan?
We have been having closed doors talks with Taiwan on everything that we see of mutual interest.
还有媒体朋友吗？有吗？那
Just to thank you again for coming and for being interested in what is happening on the other side of the world. I must take again this opportunity and mention that we are still having another fight still ongoing against Hamas with 50 hostages being held. Only yesterday we retrieved 3 bodies of hostages from there, coming from intelligence efforts. So we are hoping for their return, and please know that our office is here and always available if you have any more questions or requests. Thanks.
那我们今天的记者会就到现在结束，谢谢大家。好，那我可以了，对。
偷偷告诉大家，我最近发现了新法宝 Royal Face 逆时奇迹系列，它有活肤露、全效精华，还有精华霜。尤其我皮肤比较偏干，所以我非常的注重保湿。保湿做得好，肌肤自然烹润。提亮肤色更年轻，抚平皱纹超有感，而且气色变好。用心保养，每天都更美一点。美吧。